Get started here with our Careers in Tourism and Hospitality panel this afternoon. Hello everyone and welcome to this panel. My name is Allison and I will be your moderator for today's session. This afternoon we have representatives from Great Earth Expeditions, 5 Fisherman, Kitchen Door, and the Hilton who are here to inform you of one of the most exciting and fastest growing fields in the industry. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items we would like to review with you. In case of an emergency, please evacuate through the nearest fire exit. Please turn off or mute your cell phones for the remainder of the session. If you have your laptop open, could you please close it? We kindly ask that you remain seated throughout the entire session. Please postpone all questions until the end of our panel discussion, as we will have an open Q&A period. And finally, as many of you know, this is a Learning Passport event. In order to keep things efficient, we ask that you complete your booklet page before retrieving a stamp at the very end of the session. So I'm going to get things started here with our first question for today's panel. Just got to find the questions. Could you please introduce yourself, your position, and tell us about the company you work for? And we are going to start with Ryan.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Ryan Barry. I'm the owner and operator of an adventure tour company here in Halifax called Great Earth Expeditions. I started the company in 2007. And what does else the question say?
Your position.
Yeah, I'm the owner. I'm the guy. I tend to think of myself as the guy who's just living the dream. That's what I tell people that work for me. I'm like, I'm not your boss. I'm just a guy helping you pay the bills. So yeah, I run the tour company from May to October. It's a seasonal business, much like a lot of tourism here in Nova Scotia is. And I'll pass it on because I think I'm done.
Heather?
My name is Heather Brown. Can you hear me?
Push it in a little bit.
Okay. My name is Heather Brown. I'm not as fortunate as Ryan. I work 12 months a year. I'm the general manager for the 5 Fisherman Restaurant and Grill, as well as the Auction House, which is part of Grafton Connor Group, which is one of the largest hospitality organizations in Nova Scotia.
Thank you. Avril?
Good morning, or I guess good afternoon. I'm Avril Medora. I'm with Kitchen Door Catering. We are a full-service catering company in Bedford, Nova Scotia. We do everything from corporate day trade, wholesale, to other businesses, weddings, private events, parties, and we specialize in being a from-scratch kitchen, so making everything literally from scratch within our kitchen, so it's fresh and local. My position with the company is Sales and Marketing Manager.
Thank you. And finally, Susan.
My name is Susan Wilson, and I'm the Human Resources Services Manager for the Hampton Inn and Homewood Suites by Hilton, Halifax downtown, which is a mouthful to say. I work for SilverBirch Hotels and Resorts. That's the ownership group of our company, and we haven't had our properties open for a full year, so I've been part of the opening team since last January.
Awesome, thank you. So our next question today is, what experiences and opportunities encouraged you to pursue a career in tourism and hospitality industry? And how about we start with you, Susan?
I actually was, I'm going to date myself here, but in '88, I headed to Ontario and took a tourism management program, and I just really was interested in the industry at that time in my life. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, and I took a program that allowed me to try lots of different areas and moved back to the East Coast, and was lucky enough to get a position at the Delta Barrington as a switchboard operator in the early 90s, and from there just was able to progress through just about any position and opportunity. I took them on with relish and progressed through line level positions, supervisory, managerial roles. I actually had a rooms operation position for quite a few years, and had an opportunity to have the service the guests, but then looked internally and started treating the employees and associates as my guests, and moved to human resources, I would say, just after the millennium, and have been in HR ever since. And going from position to position just ignited the fact that I absolutely love the industry, and it's something that I wanted to do.
Thank you. Avril?
My background is actually in marketing and communications. I moved here from Toronto to Nova Scotia back a long time ago, almost 9.5 years, and in pursuing opportunities here really led me into the events business. So I ran and operated an event planning business for a number of years, and sort of looked at branching out and taking that to a different level, and partnered and brought on with Kitchen Door to expand that. just to help elevate their culinary side of things and distribute. So that's kind of what got me into this industry.
That's great, thank you. Heather?
My dad was actually a bartender at the local curling club where I grew up, and it looked like a lot of fun. So I went to university like everybody was supposed to do, and figured out I didn't know what I wanted to do, and thought that would be something fun to do while I figured out what I wanted to do. I took a course and got a job, and I was fortunate enough to work for somebody who was interested in developing people, and they gave me opportunities within that company to learn more about the back of the house. And from there, I just moved to different properties depending on who was busiest, where I had the best learning opportunities. When I decided I was going to be in this industry for good, recognized the need to educate myself, and I came here to the Mount. I moved from Fredericton and came down here and got my degree in tourism and hospitality management, which opened more doors for me, because from there, I was hired on as a unit manager in a restaurant, and just progressed with that company for 7 years, and was recently hired with Kraft & Connor because they recognized the fact that I had worked in so many different types of venues, knew everything from how to tear down a glass washer or a dishwasher and clean it to how to do a budget. And those things were really the contributing factors that made me the candidate for the position that I have now.
Thank you, and finally, Ryan.
So much like a lot of people, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to NSCC one time back in, I don't know, sometime after 2003, 2004. And I went to speak with one of their career counselors, and they said, based on your attitude and your smile, have you ever thought about getting into tourism? And I thought, hey, it's better than, not going to school and wasting money on something I don't want to do, and I don't want to do a trade. So they were like, why don't you try our program that we're putting on for people who want to potentially get into tourism. It was put on by TIANS, which is a tourism industry association in Nova Scotia. I went into it and I thought, wow, this is a fantastic course and it's a great industry. I might actually fit in here. So I got into that, and then I started looking into potentially going to school for tourism. So I actually went into the actual program, which is a 2-2 program for NSCC and here in the Mount. And I did my 2-year diploma at NSCC. And in between my first and second year, I did my co-op out west. So I went and worked out west at the Banff Springs Hotel in Alberta. And that really opened my eyes to the opportunity, the things that people were doing there that could be done here in Nova Scotia. So I went out there, I was hiking mountains, whitewater rafting, all this really cool stuff, living the dream. And I thought, why is there nobody doing that here in Nova Scotia? And so when I came back home, I started to develop a plan, potentially putting together an ecotourism or adventure tourism company here in Nova Scotia. And then in 2006, I opened up, or 2007, I opened up Great Earth Expeditions, and I worked my way up to, becoming an entrepreneur, and then I'm actually now teaching at the NSCC, the same program that I took in 2002, 2004. I'm now teaching that in that department in NSCC. So I've done everything from wash dishes, clean beds, you name it, to the position I'm in now. So it's provided me with a lot of opportunities.
That's great, thank you. So what types of attributes would you suggest students should have upon entering the tourism and hospitality field? And how about we start with you, Avril?
Sure. I really strongly believe that service is probably the biggest aspect of hospitality and tourism industry as a whole, and really exemplifying great service attributes. He mentioned a great smile, friendliness, but specifically whether it's in the role you're doing and the attitude that you have, or in the product and service that you're offering, delivering top-notch service and making it easy is pretty much the biggest seller. So obviously you're going to have a great product, but what's really going to differentiate you is how easy you make it for people to experience your product or do business with you, and that's through your service. Mm-hmm. So really those type of skills like communication skills, both written and oral communication, and I think also just being part of social aspects and being out there and networking are all key attributes.
Thank you. Heather?
I think probably the most important thing that you can do is be mentally strong, emotionally strong, and have a lot of patience. in this industry, you work with the public, and they're demanding. The industry is demanding, whether you're a tourism operator, whether you're a service, food and beverage operator. People are educated, they know what they want. They come to you with a set of expectations, and it's up to you to fill them. And lots of times you are pulled in 100 different directions at the same time, whether it's your staff, whether it's a customer, whether it's somebody on the phone, whether it's an email. You're being pulled in 100 different directions, and you have to be able to stay focused, stay calm, stay professional, and stay strong. It's exhausting. It's hard work. Anybody who thinks that you're coming into this industry to have a good time, you'll have fun, absolutely. But it's hard work, and you have to be ready to do it.
Thank you. Ryan?
I think the single most important thing for me is passion. So passion for not only your product and your service, but passion for people. Any one of you could be one of my clients one day, you know? After today, you could be like, wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. And to me, that's very important to me because you're helping pay my bills, right? So you have to look at somebody as not only as the provider of, you know, as a bill payer, as a provider for your family, but someone who genuinely you care about, and you want to provide them with a service or a product that they're going to be wowed by. You want those people to come back to Nova Scotia, whether they're local or whether they're a visitor. You want them to have an amazing time. You want them to say, you know what, this place is a great place, and there's a reason why Nova Scotia and the east coast of Canada has been known for its hospitality, and I think that anyone in the industry that has passion will go a long way with just that.
That's great. And Susan?
I think you definitely have to be an individual. Play on your individual talents. You can come in with a group of new hires, but you have to be yourself. You need to be curious. You need to be patient and flexible. And you also have to make sure that knowledge is on your radar every day. Having knowledge about your position, always being eager and curious to learn more. And again, really having that drive for yourself. You own where you're going to be heading, and sometimes you may work in a position that isn't necessarily your dream job, but take your time, gain that experience, and then be able to move on from there.
That's all really great advice. Thank you. So are there member organizations that students and graduates can and should get involved with? And how about we start with you, Heather?
There are a couple of organizations that I work. One is actually how I met Candace Blaine. It was through SCUL, and that is a networking organization that is international, and really it's made up of tourism and hospitality professionals that are supporting each other. The other thing that I would recommend is know what direction you're heading with your career and find a local association that works with you. As a food and beverage manager for the Five Fisherman restaurant, I work very closely with Destination Halifax. They are constantly working to bring conferences, organizations, groups, tourism groups, what have you, to Nova Scotia, and those people are going to need food and beverage. So for me, working with them, having a good relationship with them is absolutely critical.
Thank you. Ryan?
To add to that, I'm also a big fan of Destination Halifax. So again, they're a local organization and they're absolutely fantastic. So they've provided me with many opportunities. A lot of times they'll have travel writers come over to Nova Scotia and they want to give them kind of a unique experience. So we take them out, do the whole interpretation of flora, fauna, go hiking. And because of that, a couple of years ago, we got written up in the Calgary Herald. And checking our Google Analytics on our website and through their link, that article reached over 100,000 people in one day. So that's good marketing right there, and it was, you know, potentially free. So these are all things that when you know your product and your service, if you can tailor it to things like Destination Halifax especially, and also like Nova Scotia Tourism Agency, these things can play a huge role for your business.
That's great. Thank you. And Susan?
I would say, in addition to the ones that you've mentioned, TIANS, Tourism Industry Association of Nova Scotia. For myself, I am a member of the Halifax Human Resources Committee for hotels, and Nova Scotia Tourism Human Resource Council. Find out if you're joining, even at entry level of an organization, see what you can get involved in, and also certainly don't downplay your involvement in committees and associations at work and at school as well, because you can really get in at the ground level. There, you know, being part of health and safety and wellness committee, things like that really aid you in your career development and also assist day-to-day on the job.
Thank you. And finally, Avril.
Yeah, I think there's a number of organizations, and it really varies on which type of position in the industry you end up in that could be advantageous to you. Some of them relate directly to that, and some of them just relate back to sort of experiences and business networking, let alone direct to customers. We're involved as a catering company. Some of the associations we're in is the ICA, International Catering Association. And just to give you an example, some of the benefits aren't necessarily directly, you know, customer-based, client bringing business to you. Some of it is knowledge base and research. So we create a whole bunch of associations and networks. We're going on a research and development tour to Vancouver in a week and a half, and through the International Catering Association are doing a whole bunch of meetings behind the scenes with like companies and other things that we may be interested in Vancouver, and that's through associations like that. So there's a lot of opportunities, not just from a business perspective, but through the associations, from creating networks and learning opportunities. Other ones, obviously, a great one if you're in business, Chamber of Commerce has been fantastic. For us, like Destination Halifax, Taste of Nova Scotia is also a big local tourism driver for creating food and beverage need for us. And then the CFIB, Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, all great organizations from our perspective.
Those all sound like great organizations, so I hope you guys get involved with those. Our next question is, what is it about the tourism and hospitality industry that you enjoy the most? Let's start with you, Ryan.
I just wanted to have the opportunity to meet people from all over the world. I'm a big traveler myself. I like to travel and I like to immerse myself in various cultures. I think it educates people on a way that not even academically can. It's a different kind of education, and I think because of it, I've grown as a person individually as well as in my business sense as an entrepreneur. Just by meeting people from all over the world, it kind of opens your eyes to what's out there and new ideas as well. You know, I don't know everything, and in fact, I don't know a whole lot. I've gotten this far because of my smile, I guess. But people from all over the world have given me ideas, and I just kind of run with it. So some of the things that I've learned, things that I think we need to implement here in Nova Scotia, I've learned from a lot of European travelers, because they're very well traveled. In Europe, you can travel to a lot of different countries in a very small space, and they have all these great ideas, so I'm trying to implement those things here. So I think, you know, learning from travel and from meeting people from all over the world is a big part of my business.
Thank you. Heather?
I am one of those people that needs to have something new all the time. And I'm very, very lucky because the tourism industry, the hospitality industry gives you that. I am challenged every day, and it's a different challenge every day. It can be how to feed 200 people in an hour and a half. It can be somebody wants a raise, but you know, they really warrant a raise. There are so many things that keep your adrenaline flowing and challenge you and make you think creatively and challenge yourself. That's what keeps me going, and that's what I really, really like about it. There aren't many industries that you can work in where things are different every day and that you're going to be challenged every day, and this is one.
Thank you. Avril?
Yeah, I'm hearing a common thread here, and maybe all of you in the audience sort of feel the same way, but likewise, I consider myself a bit of a creative individual. I don't know if you guys are the ones that get your ideas at 11 p.m. at night when you should be going to sleep and they're up till 2 a.m., but that's me at the most inopportune times. And one of the things I love about this industry is exactly that, is that there is so much change and diversity. For us, that's, again, that we could be doing 10 different jobs in the same day, and they're all completely different, and they all require a different mindset and a different approach and a different attitude, let alone from the next day to the next day. And that variety really piques my interest, as well as our job brings us to different locations, to different venues, to different provinces. And I need that kind of change and variety and stimulation to keep my interest. And so I'm really lucky to be able to work in a profession that gives me that. And as well, I think one of the most rewarding aspects of this business, again, we talked back to service, and that is because we're dealing with so many people. And so really, that's a wonderful reward, the number of people and the stories we get to hear about and what's happening. And for me, being part of so many different celebrations. For us, we're a part of whether that's a big, huge business moment or that's a private celebration, and we really are tied into those, and that's a great reward.
Feels like a big family.
Yeah,
That's the way I look at it.
it really is.
Yeah.
That's great. And finally, Susan.
For myself, it's, it sounds like a canned response, but it's being around people, whether it's people that I work alongside with, that I work for, or people that I've served in the past. Every day is different. It's unbelievable how you gain an appreciation of the big picture, how you can't work in silos, how everybody and every aspect of a hotel is so interdependent. You can't have one department working without the other. It really, it's ever changing. It's amazing to me how you can have a plan in place and something, look at the city of Halifax and the weather that we've had. Occupancy is down in the city, and nobody could have forecasted that by what was on the books and planning your budget the year prior. An example that it's kind of funny to think about, but think of how many people heard about the AC/DC concert coming, and when that was announced, think about how that affected not only the city of Moncton, but if I look at occupancy in the entire province was impacted. So it's great to be part of an industry where certain events, small and large, can have an overall impact on a community and a city, which is really cool.
That's great to know. So we've kind of already touched on this, but in your opinion, what are the most important skills people need to work in the tourism and hospitality industry? And how about we start with you, Susan?
Passion for people, great attitude, individual performer, and just striving to know more on a daily basis. You have to be an actor as well. Everybody says don't bring your personal life and your outside life into work. Sometimes it's hard. When I worked on the desk way back when, we'd say, when you open that door to go out on the front desk, you are on stage and you're welcoming the guests and people in your environment to what's going on that day. So really just have great self-awareness, know what you're putting out there every day, and don't settle for second best. I mean, strive to be where you want, and I think it's a great industry that will help you get there. If you show that you have the desire to move up and move forward, there are so many great mentors and so many great leaders in this industry that will help you get there. But you have to take that onus on yourself.
Thank you. Avril?
I think keeping yourself relevant is really important. So whether that's through education like you're doing now, continued education, courses, little R&D trips. Again, I find a lot of this industry is creative. And so being on top of that, being on top of changes, Ryan touched on, he's bringing ideas from Europe. We're going to Vancouver. You're studying in other industries, you're talking to people, and really being up to date and relevant is important. So constantly educating yourself. I mean, the internet is a huge aspect of that, and take advantage of it, especially in a community like Nova Scotia. I think you have a great opportunity to take what's already successful in other places and implement it here and instantly have great success.
Thank you. Heather?
One of the things that I think is absolutely critical, and people kind of take it for granted, is listening. Not everybody knows how to listen. We all think we do. But normally when somebody talks to you, you're either, number one, planning a defense to what they're saying, or you're figuring out how your experience relates to that person so that you can establish a relationship with them. You stop listening to what the person is saying to you because you're planning your response. And what everybody who works in this industry needs to learn how to do, regardless of what aspect you work in, is to listen to people. If somebody is taking the time to talk to you about something, they have something to say and they want you to hear it. They don't want you to a canned response. They want to know that you heard what they said and then reply. Again, it sounds overly simple, but it's hard. You really have to work at it. And if you can do it successfully, put yourself in their situation, then you're going to be successful.
That's great. And finally, Ryan.
I'm just going to add to that. I think that's a really, really good point. Listening skills are are key in this industry, because if you're able to listen to somebody, you know what they want, and then you can go above and beyond the call of duty and then provide something for them, and they'll acknowledge that you have actually listened to them, and that's huge. If you're working for an employer, I wouldn't be surprised if your employer heard about that. These are the kind of things that people appreciate in this industry. I know we've also touched on this as well, but education, I think, is huge. Academically and even personally on your own time. I constantly educate myself on various things, whether it's flora and fauna of Nova Scotia, rocks, plate tectonics, just all kinds of crazy things that I know people are going to end up asking in this industry, because as a professional in the tourism industry, people think you know everything. So if you're working in Halifax or Nova Scotia, learn about the history of Nova Scotia, learn about the history of Halifax. When you can provide people those kind of answers, they know that you're sincere and you're passionate about your city, your province, and that'll go a long way, trust me.
That's all really great advice. Thank you for sharing. Our next question is, describe some of the changes you have seen in the industry in the last 5 years. What changes or trends do you see going forward? And how about we start with you, Avril?
Yeah, obviously, if you guys are following, I think specifically from our perspective as well, local food movement is obviously a huge growing trend, but not even just, touching on food, local. Going local is a huge trend as a whole. Recently, MPI, Meeting Planners International, held a conference and invited a whole bunch of individuals, members of MPI and from various hotels and boards, to sort of talk about how they can incorporate local and what are the challenges they're finding and ways that they can incorporate it, because these are what's coming in as client requests. So people are coming in on tourism trades or meetings, and they want a local component to their meeting, to their event, to their food and beverage. And so, being ahead of that game and knowing what you can do to incorporate it. So that's definitely a huge a huge one. I also think another big trend is sort of packaging. And what I mean by that is a lot of boutique or various companies coming together to package experiences, so that you're not just selling one service, that you're selling a variety, an entire experience while they're here, and not looking at anyone in the industry as a competitor, but looking them as a partner to help you make a better experience and a memory for that client.
Thank you. Heather?
One of the major ones that we're seeing, especially in our industry, is a more educated consumer. People know, they know what's in their food. They know more about the products that are being offered. They know what's out there. Why don't you have this? Can we get that? Special requests are not special requests anymore. Special requests are normal requests. The other thing that I'm seeing, and probably you are too, Susan, is that Americans are traveling again. After 9/11, they stopped. We had some pretty lean tourism years in 2000, in that era, in those 10 years. And now we're starting to see with cruise ships and car, bus, we're seeing a lot more Americans start to cross the border again. And that has a huge impact on tourism in Nova Scotia, because we are a destination for them, and we're pretty happy to see them back.
That's great. Thank you. Ryan?
Strictly thinking about my segment of the business, I see a huge change in ecotourism as a whole. I know for many years they said that ecotourism was the fastest growing segment in tourism, and I had a hard time believing that, because I didn't have a whole lot of money in my bank account, and I'm like, it's hard to believe it if there's not too many people coming on our tours. And we're not doing anything unique. We're just doing something unique to Nova Scotia. Like I said, you go out west and there's dozens of tour companies like mine. So we're just kind of mimicking what they're doing out there, doing it here. But I'm starting to see a change. Our business and our numbers are increasing double each year. And I think it's because of the fact that people are no longer wanting to do that cookie cutter kind of hop on a bus, hop off tour. I think people are more educated, and they want to have that whole package experience. So they want to eat local food, they want to go hiking, they want to experience nature and sustainable tourism. And so I think that's going to be something to really strive for in the next couple of years, is providing that kind of service to people, because I know within the next 3 to 5 years there's going to be a huge increase in numbers for people wanting to do those things, especially if the European market starts coming to Nova Scotia, because I think Nova Scotia should start promoting itself as it's the gateway to Canada from Europe, because we are the first stop, and a lot of people are flying over Nova Scotia, and what's that little province down there, and they land in Toronto. And Toronto is a lot different from Nova Scotia. We can provide that outdoor experience with amazing culture, amazing food. So packaging that all again together is key.
And you are seeing some change in that. I think you guys, if obviously you're in this board, you're seeing there's a lot of new direct flight offerings from Halifax to some of those European countries. So that's really going to make a difference in bringing some of that, I believe.
Yeah, Ireland is one of them. Iceland is another one.
Scotland
so yeah,
coming up in
there's
a month.
Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Thanks. And finally, Susan.
I think technology, social media, the way people are doing business. It used to be that if you wanted to go to a destination or to a hotel, you went through a travel agent. Now, I don't know about yourselves, but when I'm planning on taking a trip or visiting a spot, I go to TripAdvisor. I go to all these spots, you know, the infamous Trivago guy that is out there and caused such a stir. But people are being very much servicing when they're looking for experiences or destinations, and I think it's so critically important that organizations and hotels and businesses really take an active responsibility in their online reputation that can change just like that. So I just really think that has become, you know, in the past few years, and it can only get more relevant and timely. Think of how, I mean, we were up here taking pictures of you and posting it on, but think of how that's changed in the past few years, and that's the way people are doing business when they're thinking about traveling. So it's instantaneous. And if you have an organization or you have a business or a product, you need to make sure that you are selling yourself and setting up reasonable expectations, because a lot of times people, even before they come in through your door, they have an expectation of what the experience is going to be like. So you constantly have to be making sure that you're relevant, staying on top of trends, and really communicating that out there. Often people would say, well, I'm traveling to Halifax. Talk to a friend or family member. Where have you stayed before? And now, Google which hotel, read the ratings, and by doing that quick price comparison, they may decide to stay at a spot that they hadn't even thought of. So it's just, things are moving so quickly, so you just have to stay on top. And more organizations are having people specialize specifically in social media and the image with regards to their business.
Yeah.
That's all really great information, so thank you for sharing. Our next question is, how should university students best prepare themselves to enter into a career in tourism and hospitality? And how about we start with you, Heather?
Do every job that you can. When you know what you want to do, if you have a plan, an ultimate goal, do every job that is related to that goal. If it's washing dishes, if it's taking luggage to a room, if it's climbing a mountain or whatever. Basically, the more that you know, the more that you do, the more you're going to be able to understand what the people that are working for you do. I'm assuming everybody that in this room is not planning on being on the front line forever. If you're looking at moving into a management or an ownership position, you need to understand the mechanics of how your business operates, and the best way to do that is to do it. You can learn a lot out of books, but books is completely different from real life. You need to experience it in order to be able to do it.
Ryan?
Be prepared to work really hard. Again, it's not an easy ride. People are very educated now. Travelers are very educated with the use of the internet and everything else. So you really got to work hard. I know when I first started my business, the first couple years, all my friends were saying, "Oh my God, you have it so easy. You go hiking every day and people pay you for it." And I just rolled my eyes. I'm like, you guys have no idea. Well, they're out partying on Saturday night. I'm at home crunching numbers. Yeah, boring. But I had to do what I had to do. I had to sacrifice. And that's one of the things you're going to have to do is sacrifice. I'm not saying, don't ever talk to your friends again. I'm just saying, you're going to be spending a lot of time educating yourself and doing the things that you have to do in order to advance your career. And if you do that, it'll pay off in the long run.
Thank you. Susan?
I would say safeguard your online reputation. Just from an HR professional, what you do tonight might affect how you are seen in an employer's eyes in the future. So that's just, I'm saying that out loud for my 6-year-old son in the future as well. But also, be prepared to put your time in. Be prepared to take that position. Don't expect to get a supervisor or managerial role right off the bat. And have that great attitude, be that go-to person. Make yourself stand out as an individual, and when you're going for those entry-level positions, really sell yourself. Do your homework on the organization. So many times people come to an interview and are expecting the interview to ask all the questions. I love to be interviewed myself. I love when I ask someone, tell me about our company, what about our organization? Do your homework. If they can knock my socks off there, they've got a foot in the door, and we can train for skills. We can't train for attitude. And the probationary period, that first few months, that's when you're really going to get noticed and help yourself to be set apart and get involved as well. As many ways as you can do that right off the bat, that's what we look for.
That's really good to know. Thank you. And finally, Avril.
Obviously, you just have to get started. Get out there and take a position. Like they said, it doesn't have to be the best and most perfect one. It's unbelievable where your path will twist and turn and take you in the end, and don't be afraid of just taking that first step. Just to touch on a couple of other key things, she was sort of talking about the glitz and glamour aspect of the industry, and I really call it the grit and glamour. You are the grit that makes the glamour happen. And it really is hard work, and I had the same experiences as Brian, people envious of what we were doing because the pictures of our events looked incredible, and people thought, oh my gosh, how cool is that? You're part of these parties and part of these cool things. And I said, yeah, absolutely. 12 hours on your feet, lifting and lugging into a van, out of a van, then back into a van, then out of a van, then carrying tables, and but that's what you do to execute an event, and you do it as part of a team. So really having a team-oriented attitude, again, whether that's individually inside the organization you're working, or whether that's outside and looking at other businesses and opportunities and really team experiences. And the final thing I'd like to say is I really do think the key aspect we talked about, or I mentioned early on about service being a key element. Really being prepared to go above and beyond, and again, inside and outside. So as an individual, you are going to stand out when any assignment you're given, you can go above and beyond. And as a business or in the role that you're providing as a service, anytime you can go above and beyond, you are going to get continued repeat business, spreading the word about what you did, and you're going to create these fabulous experiences, which really this industry is all about.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, go for it.
Most often when we get guest feedback, or when people actually take time to sit down and provide feedback, it's the people, not the hotel room, or it might be the meal, but I'll tell you, it's the associates, it's the people that they've come in contact that help to create those memorable experiences. So just remember that I work in a brand new property. However, if I'm not wowing our customers and really making those emotional connections with them, it's just going to be another hotel stay. So individuals are what really help this industry move forward, and make sure that you're standing out and just going above and beyond. It can be low cost, high impact by just connecting with someone while they're in your service establishment, and you can be the reason why they come back again and again and again.
Thank you. So that was our last question for our panel today. So we're going to open it up to the audience now. Does anyone have any questions for our panelists, or all of them for that matter? Don't be shy. Don't all jump at once either. Okay. Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Except with the case of Ryan a little bit, is how much business knowledge do you guys need to know? Ryan mentioned that he had to go home and crunch numbers, right? We learned yesterday at the accounting and finance panel
Yes.
Yeah.
that us potential CPAs or anything had to be able to talk hospitality and tourism to be able to translate to you what we're mean for accounting or marketing or anything else. But how much do you guys need to know business courses to understand what accountants or marketers or cost whatevers do you guys need to know to understand what the advice we give you, right? So.
I can touch on that first. I work in the sales and marketing aspect of it. So the biggest portion of my role really is driving the numbers of the business. So looking at going back and after we have an event and looking what the actual costs were, the number of hours spent, any lost damages, incidentals, what did we actually make, what was our final profit on that, and what we would need to do moving forward. And I spend a lot of time looking at opportunities and researching the numbers before putting in bids and proposals for large jobs, because sometimes a huge piece of business that says this is an RFP for $50,000 for a one-day event sounds, yeah, we want that piece of business. But when you actually crunch the numbers and in the end and you think
worth
about
it?
the volume of work you've done, you have to determine if it's worth it for your business and if that is going to be there. So there's a large component to it that does require you to have, obviously, Excel skill sets, math skill sets, being able to have some business acumen and, understand what's going on, and being able to have excellent skills in terms of putting together proposals and quotes and sales events. I would also like to say, just from a business perspective, not from a numbers perspective, when we talked about communication skills, I think in this day and age, we often, I did it, we tweet and we use a lot of short tags and smiley faces, and it is a wonderful way to stay real, and it's up to you to decide what the brand of your business is and which way to talk to your clients is appropriate based on the brand of your business. But I would say, regardless, being able to, formulate an accurate sentence and spell correctly can make all the difference in looking like a reputable business and getting an actual sale.
Would anyone else like to add anything?
As a food and beverage general manager, you gotta know it. I spent all day yesterday trying to figure out where credit cards that didn't balance this day, and who was responsible, and it's like a big treasure hunt. Labor cost, food cost, they're all there.
Administration fees.
Exactly. Those are all things that you, as a professional, are responsible for. You have to know how they work. You have to know where the numbers come from. You have to know how you can change the numbers to make them work for you. So don't ever discount that aspect of it. It's important.
Yep. Budgeting, forecasting. In HR, it's turnover, metrics. Everybody has to play a role, and key part of our team is our controller and our accounting finance team. So as I mentioned, you can't work in silos. Everybody has to work together. So there's a piece of that in every single position in our property.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. Thank you. Anyone else have a question? This one down here.
Hi.
My question is, how do you handle competition both internally and externally? So, for instance, like inside the business, if you have an idea and you're just trying to bounce it off another person, and then they take your idea and run with it. And then also, how does your business thriving, or how is your business different from other businesses here?
Is that for anyone in particular or just the whole panel? Anyone want to jump at it?
I'd take a stab at that. So I know we already touched on this, but I don't look at anybody in the industry as my competition. Again, we kind of do something unique to Nova Scotia, but there were people that were doing similar things. They've since moved on to other things, so they've kind of opened up some things for us in the industry. But I tend to look at people, again, as more of a partnership rather than a competition, because I think that if you butt heads with too many people in Nova Scotia and in this industry, word spreads very, very quickly. So when those type of situations arise, try to look at it as how can we work together rather than be in competition. Obviously, in the hotel industry, there's about a zillion hotels in downtown Halifax, and if they didn't all work together as a huge unit, as a web, there'd be a lot of controversy within the industry, and you wouldn't have someone else to lean on. For example, when a hotel is overbooked, they look upon their partners or one of the other sister properties so they can put people in rooms, right? So they look at each other as a partnership, even if it's not the same hotel brand. And we do the same thing in the ecotourism industry. Is a lot of people say, oh, well, what about the guys who are running Cape Breton tours? Well, they're not really competition because we're taking people from Halifax. And if they can benefit our tour in any way, if we can take people to Cape Breton and have them guide for us one day, that takes a little bit of work off of our hands, and it also provides another company with work. So building those bonds, I think, is really important. So I think you just have to change your attitude when it comes to competition, because it's such a small industry, and again, word spreads pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
Anyone else want to add anything?
It's healthy. Competition is healthy and keeps people
Yeah.
on their toes. I mean, I can go back again to people are what help set it apart. You could have a great, one of our products, we're lucky to have 2 brands in one. One of them's extended stay focus, so we're not necessarily going after the same market as a lot of other properties, but it's the experiences that people have that will set it apart. And again, you talked about it being a small community that way. You can't have a player in the market who's undercutting other people. They will ostracize themselves pretty quick. It's not good for the entire market. It's not good for Halifax if you have, for instance, rate integrity. There is similarities in a lot of the hotel rates across the city, depending on what type of product you're looking for. But if somebody goes in and says, $49 rates or pay what you want or something like that, that undermines the entire market. So you have to keep your competition and not your enemies, but close.
I think you look at it from a corporate perspective, so sort of from an outside perspective, as you have goals for your business and you have a brand for your business. So really identifying what that is and knowing what your market is and what you offer, and just focus on what your goals are. Growing dollars, growing reach, focus on that, and don't really focus on the other individuals. Partnership is huge. For us, we're a catering company. I don't know if you recall, but RCR recently had their entire fire
Yes.
destroy their entire offices and some of their production facilities. And the first thing we did is reach out to them and offer any of our support and services to them in that time. We respect what it takes as a business to run and operate, and if there was ever a time in need for us, we would hope that the community would come together for us as well. So keeping that, I think, is important. Obviously, you do your business, and again, we refer. Internally, what I would suggest is, again, really look at building everyone up around you. There's kind of a thing in the sales world that you always have a buddy. So meaning you be someone's buddy and they take you with you. So salespeople often have a little buddy. If you look at the top sales executives, there's someone under that's constantly supporting them, feeding them business, doing anything and everything for them, and they tend to be the person's guy. So when they go up the ladder, they take you with you. So look at everybody in your organization like that and constantly build and support them up. So if they even take an idea, celebrate it. Celebrate them. Pretend like it was their idea. Make them look like a hero, because as they grow and as the next person grows, they're going to think about what a great person you were, how you helped the business, how you helped support all the hard work that you did. You're not a threat or a competition to them, which people, that instills that fear, like you want to get rid of threat and competition. You don't want to be someone that people feel like they want to get rid of. You want to be someone that they feel as an ally and a partner and that they can work with. So look at it more from that perspective.
And I think further to that, you'll find in our industry, if you have infighting in-house, you have the wrong people.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm very fortunate, my staff are all very supportive of each other. If somebody has a busy section and somebody else doesn't, boom, whoever doesn't is helping support the other when they're running their food, they're bussing their tables. There's competition, absolutely. We have contests all the time, is to help them improve what they do, increase sales overall for us, which helps us. But the industry in Halifax is very mutually supportive. And I think maybe in the Maritimes we're a little unique that way. You're probably not going to experience that if you go somewhere, you know, like Toronto or Vancouver, whatever. But I know downtown Halifax, on the waterfront especially, bringing people downtown, regardless of who brings them down, everybody wins. So you really need to rethink competition and replace that with cooperation.
Yeah, collaboration.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's great advice, thank you, and that's a good question. Anyone else have a question for our panel? There's one over there.
Hi, my name is Jana Seaman. I'm in my 4th year, and my question is for Ryan. I have an interest in hiking and doing things of that nature, kind of adventurous, and so I've been searching all over Halifax for something to do, and it's very difficult. So I was just wondering, where exactly are you located? And you mentioned that it's kind of like seasonal, so what are the months again, and like what type of things do you offer? Because I would really be interested
You have
in
a new
something
client,
like
right?
See,
that.
client. See?
Client.
This is why I always speak well about people.
It was your smile.
You see how I pucker up? Yeah, all right, we're talking business now. No, so you can find us on the web. We're greatearthexpeditions.com. I'll leave some business cards on the front of the table here. We run from May 1st to October 31st, and we do everything from hiking, sea kayaking, and photography tours. And we do 4-day trips around Cape Breton as well. So that's kind of our bread and butter now. We've seen a huge increase in our tours to Cape Breton. One of our competitions, they closed the doors, even though we worked with them. They were more of a partner, but they've since moved on to other things. And so we kind of took over their business last year, and we ran tours every week from mid-June to mid-October. So we're focusing on those. So if you were to go on any one of the tours, that's one of them. You'll see moose and whales and eat lobster. It's a good
Sounds
time.
great to me.
Yeah.
Anyone else
On
have
the
a
same
question?
day.
No?
I have one. Am I allowed?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't help myself sometimes. As you look at our group, you can see that we're pretty diverse. And what I was wondering, because you're each representing quite an interesting part of the industry with the hotels, catering, restaurant, and tour operations. How is your company or your industry preparing to deal with diversity in the workplace?
For our organization, we encourage it. When we're looking to fill a position, we don't have any one particular person in mind. We think, what qualities can someone bring to the table? We're always looking at partnering with schools, back to work organizations, new people to Halifax, working with immigrant services and things like that. So I just think that people come with such an incredible background and a story and skills that we really strive on having a very diverse workforce. We have people working for us, we've only been open a year, from all over the world, which is absolutely wonderful. And we look at changing our strategies to be able to pair up with people who are on work permits or work visas and things like that for seasonal opportunities. So it's something that we consciously do, and we really like the fact that you walk from one side of our property to the other, and you can see the diversity that's in this room, which is, it's something that our customers enjoy and our associates enjoy, because they're working with different people.
We have a gentleman named Donald who works for us 3 days a week and works in our dish pit and does dishes for us. He's from Building Futures. He's an autistic individual who, when started with us, had an assistant partnered with him during the entire time he was working his shift, till he got comfortable enough and knew his role. And now he just works with us with some guidance, and we're open to it and lots of opportunities. And in fact, we didn't need that role. We created that extra opportunity to incorporate that opportunity for someone like Donald. And we're happy to do that in many dynamic facets.
I always think about going back, Pier 21 is in Halifax, and think about how many people came to the country through that port, and isn't it great that we can reflect, and we should reflect
Yep.
in our workplaces, the diversity that is in our city.
Anyone else?
I always say you never find anybody in the tourism industry in Halifax that's from Halifax. I'm not from Halifax, and I don't think anybody that works for me is from Halifax. And I think that probably is why I'm a little surprised at the question, Candace, because we hire 100% on ability, work ethic, attitude. Where you come from, your history, anything like that has nothing to do with anything. And for me, it never has. So
It's a bonus.
yeah.
Yeah, I've always thought to myself, I always wanted local guides to get that local experience. And it's never turned out that way.
No.
It was always, you come in with this notion, oh, this is the way it's gonna be, and never works out that way. That's why I don't have any answers on my page, because I'd just be mumbling the whole time. So I always thought to myself, yeah, I want local guides, because when people come here, they're gonna be like, oh, they're from Nova Scotia, they must know what they're talking about. But it's actually comforting knowing that I hire somebody from New Brunswick or from somewhere in Europe. Last year, a guy working for me, Harry, was from England. And it was interesting because people, when they ring up Harry and they hear an English accent, they're actually like, where are you from? And it starts a conversation, and then when he talks and they start talking about travel and they realize that he's been to like 50 countries, still jealous, they actually find comfort in that, knowing that they're talking to a tour company that knows about travel. So, you know, if you come to me with the right skill set and you're well-traveled and you're easygoing and you're able to talk to people and associate with people from all over the world, then to me, you know, it doesn't matter where you're from, what color you are, how old you are. I always thought that a lot of the people that be working for me, especially guides, they'd be, you know, gym rats. They'd all be ripped and they'd all be young. And a lot of cases that hasn't happened because they just didn't have the work ethic. And some of my older guides actually put on the best show because they listened to the clients and they were just in tune, and they put on a show. So
That's great, thank you. We have time for one more question if anyone has one for our panel. No? All right, could you please give a round of applause for our lovely panel this afternoon?
We even got a whistle.
So for those of you who are looking for a learning passport point, you must have your booklet page completely filled out. That means signed, dated, description, everything, and we're gonna have 2 stampings, one up there and one down here.
Do we get a stamp?
What do you recommend?
Do we pass?
We do.
Sure.
We're looking for doing
Yay, that was awesome. Yeah, it's great.
split.
we do.
I'll take one of your
Yeah, that's one of our
Yeah.
more popular hikes over the last couple of years.
Oh, I was wondering if we got a stamp.
Is this a
Did we
permanent
pass
parking
it
pass?
out?